Hello and welcome. My name is Mike Hammond.
I'm Sarah Walsh.
And this is Retails, a podcast all about retail restaurants and working horrible customer service jobs.
We would like to thank Right Good Studios for making us sound right good, and Arts NL providing funding.
How? This episode contains language and or content that is intended for very tired adults. Viewer discretion is advised. And now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Retails. Today's episode is all about working for corporate, the overlords that decide whether or not we have homes next month. Today's guest is a special guest. We have musician Jordan Young in the studio with us today. Jordan, thank you.
Woo-hoo!
Thanks for having me on.
Jordan is a musician in a traditional Newfoundland band called Coaker's Hat, and in my opinion, the much more impressive of his artistic endeavors, he's in a Beach Boys cover band called the Beach Boys. As a retail employee, he has been an overnight baker at a donut shop, a sandwich artist, a local paint and hardware mom and pop store, a corporate paint and hardware store, bartender, a sales rep for paint, and a sales rep for medical supplies. Which one of these is not like the other? Jordan, thank you for joining us today.
Woo-woo!
Thanks for having me on.
So-
Fan of the show.
You've worked in like the mom and pop hardware store and the corporate hardware store. What's the big difference between the two? Or like what are the things that you really notice that are different between the two?
Well, the mom and pop hardware store is actually kind of special to me because it's a place I got my first paycheck ever as a kid when they were doing some renos there, because we've got a family connection to the store. So it was actually my uncle was one of the managers there. So you know,
So nepotism.
it's nepotism. No, I mean, you know, that
You
usually-
weren't qualified, but it was like, hey, look, give my
Yeah, but it
nephew
was-
a
give
job.
our dumb nephew a job.
It
you know?
was gentle nepotism because it was a mom and pop store.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was homey nepotism.
But you know, they were the sort of people that were, you know, willing to help a young person out, you know, and it was a nice place. I mean, I gotta say there was a lot of long-term employees there. They treated people well. They were sort of a fixture in the downtown community. You got to know the people, and they really served a lot of the local businesses. It was downtown, so a lot of the bar and restaurant owners would be
So like straight out of a movie, like
Aw.
this small town mom and pop stores, like, oh, come in and get your nails.
literally, and they'd been in business, I think, since like 1845 or something. Like
Oh my God.
they like, well, while I was there was all these like the stickers and plaques and stuff up for their 150th anniversary. By the time I started working there, I think it was like year 178 of them being a business, so they almost made it to 200 years.
Wow.
Before what happened?
Well, before
The incident.
the incident being, you know, the expansion of Kelsey Drive, and you know, a big orange corporate box store coming in and really disrupting the local, you know, paint, hardware, flooring market. You know, so
So after 178 years, at least,
yeah.
the corporate store, which is the one you went to work for after this one
Yeah,
closed?
there was a few
Oh,
jobs. in
come
between,
on,
but-
Jordan!
Traitor.
I'm part of the problem.
You
Well, no,
treacherous
let's
bitch.
face it, the big box store was the problem.
That's,
You just had to,
I
like...
was just swept up by market forces and corporate evil. Yeah, that's,
Yeah. Well, like, you know, and also rent and food.
I did need those things at the time, because before I started working at the corporate hardware store, I had a nice gig working with the musicians union, but you know, that was one of those JCP funding things. I was doing some communication stuff for them, so that was really cool, working in the community with other musicians and that kind of thing. But you know, what contract gigs are like. The money runs out, so I had to find something. So I went to work and put on an orange smock.
We're all just gathering nuts for the winter.
So you went from this loving mom and pop, salt of the earth, shirt off your back kind of business.
You know
And
that
then
they'd set up at least 10 people in the community to be like, here's your future husband.
Oh yeah, they're giving out turkey dinners on Christmas.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Like, they have an orphanage in the back that's like...
These sweet people are just orphan curators.
It's like, you know, I don't know how to say no-kill farm, but for children.
No.
So you went from this.
From
this.
These very good people.
Yeah, who may or may not have had parentless children. Get back to it.
Now let's be honest. They were part of the Scottish merchant class, but they were relatively kind folks to work for. They looked after.
Yeah,
the
sure.
people.
People with money can be nice, and most of them
Yeah.
are not.
Oh, yeah.
So you went from this like beautiful salt of the earth kind of store, and then you went to this corporate store. Like what was that one like? The corporateness, was it the same? Was there like children in the back singing the praises? Oh, we can't wait to get adopted.
No, they kept the children overseas in the factories.
I was going to say the children were making the
things.
things.
Shingles, yeah.
Tiny hands make good shingles.
Yeah, so they can work faster and place the sand more quickly. Well, the biggest thing I noticed about by working for a big corporate train was like the brainwashing. Like it literally started on day one. Like our first 2 weeks of employment there was to go sit in front of a computer and do e-learnings and be just brainwashed to learn how to talk and it's very specific, like how to approach customers, the things you say, the things that you're not allowed to say to people when you're on the
Apple
phone.
has a rule. Apparently, in Apple stores, you're not allowed to correct the customer.
Oh, that's
So, like, I was just
dangerous.
reading this thing this morning. It's like, if someone comes in and it's like, "Oh, I want one of them Izzy phones," you can't say like, "Oh, sorry, you mean an iPhone? Yeah, sure. Come on back. We'll get you." They're like, "Yup, one Izzy phone coming up."
Oh.
Yeah,
But like, that's just like you're not allowed to tell them that if they come in and they don't have the right idea of what they want and they're wrong about it, like, are they not allowed to be like, I think you actually want a laptop?
Yeah, so one of the places that I worked at a weed store, which you'd think shouldn't have that many rules because it's ridiculous, but
Yeah, just say you're not a doctor when someone asks about pain.
that was like one of the only things that I thought made sense, is that you're like, I am not a doctor. It's like, I don't know if you needed clarification that like the 27-year-old behind the counter at a fucking weed store does not have a medical
Why
degree.
would they be asking, like, is this CBD oil good for my golden
they get that
retriever's
question a
knee?
lot.
90% of my time in the weed store was telling people I am not a vet. I don't know how your dog will react to CBD. But
How is your dog even going to smoke this?
sometimes they would bring in the dog, and the dog would
Awkwardly.
usually be like the saddest little, like, you're like, yeah, no, it's a dog that you're like, oh, this should have died like 6 years ago. Maybe it did, and no one told it. But my first couple of weeks there was onboarding, so it was the same thing. It was literally like endless videos, and then you'd have to fill out a quiz, and if you got the quiz wrong, you'd have to watch the videos again, and you couldn't fast forward the videos to watch it at like 2 times the speed and just speed run through it. Like, so like my first like 2 paychecks were 90% of me in a tiny little office just customer service, and I'm like, God damn it.
Well, that was the other thing that struck me too, because I mean it's a big building, so you don't see this training area like it's a permanent thing, and it's like a decent sized office. Like, I think there was close to 20 cubicles in there, so that means like their turnover rate was so high that it was enough to justify 20 desks where people are always being onboarded. So
Oh.
that shows you how like much they were burning through people, or like how often they're mandating that staff go do this continuous learning to keep on the
I was
orange mindset.
Gonna ask, is that because there's some places that I've worked before where if you had like a write-up or if you got a spoken to or a verbal, then you'd have to do like mandatory refreshing. Which-
Re-education.
No, it's in
I'm
essence
not
like
a web page.
so like I know that it sounds like a cult, but that's only because it sounds like a cult.
Well, like the big box stores, like everyone know, like the legends of like Walmart and like Future Shop, they're defunct now. But they would have on our Christmas episode, Hickey talked about like the morning cheer
Ugh.
before like his shift at Future Shop. Like that I can't imagine cult. Like it's a cult.
It's a
You're
cult,
not
no.
how can you imagine you're not in a cult when you're doing like these like weird cheers?
With people that you have to refer to as we're like family, and if you fuck up, you have to get re-educated. Like it is generally very cult-like, and there's always like some ominous person from corporate that like you're, often threatened with, but you never actually see them. You might get an email for like a Zoom meeting one day, but that usually means that you're either going to get fired or you're going to get disappeared to another store.
Ooh, relocated, I believe is what they call it.
Well, look, I mean, I was quickly, like pulled up and chastised for an attitude adjustment, like even during this training period. But because I'd worked at a hardware store for 4 or 5 years, was going to university.
Yeah, a very
and,
salt of the earth,
but
lovely.
I knew stuff about paint and how to measure floors, so I got
all about giving out toffees to young folk,
Helping the community.
the orphans, but
building homes for the homeless.
With ethically sourced materials.
Yeah,
And you threw it all away.
Well,
what I was gonna say.
yeah, you were at
No,
training, you were chastised.
Yeah, yes, chastised justly. So I finished all this quickly because I knew the shit because I'd worked at a hardware store for so long. So I'd just be kind of milling around or fucking around on my phone or something, and then the manager called me and was like, "Can you come into my office?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. What's up?" They said, "Well, you don't seem to be very engaged in your training." I was like, "Well, I finished all the quizzes, said I got everything right." I said, "Yeah, but you're just sort of wandering around. And you're going through things very quickly." I was like, "Yes, I know how to mix a gallon of paint. I worked at a paint store for 4 years." Well, I just think your approach is with a very poor attitude. I was like, maybe it's sort of a waste of time. Like, I think I could probably go out and start mixing paint right now. I did it for 4 years. They said, "Well, look, I don't want this to be a warning, but it could." I said, "Well, I'd hate to have to put this on your file." I said, "Put what on my file? Put what on my file?" That I completed the training.
You were
Already
too
knows
competent.
how to do job.
Too competent too quickly.
That was it. The other thing about that place worth noting is, like, I mean, Office Space was a documentary, right? Like they literally, like, the smocks they made you wear, like they
It's the
encourage putting a little piece of
Flair.
flair.
Oh god.
I've worked at a couple of restaurants that did the same thing. They're like, it's not just like a uniform, but you can like show people who you are. And I'm like, I am very dull. Please don't make me.
The
wear buttons.
Fun fact: I don't know if we can zoom on this. We're just going to show
We
on
absolutely
the camera.
can.
But yeah, so this is my Bad Brains pin, and I used to wear that on my smock. So, like, you're familiar with the Bad Brains, the seminal hardcore punk band, perhaps?
Of course, everyone who doesn't know Bad Brains, am I right?
Well, Bad Brains was your local visual artist and sometimes punk rocker Chrissy Breen and her sister Carrie, nationally known journalist now. That was their sort of RPM project that year that I worked at Orange Store. That was on my smock, the Bad Brains.
The more you know.
A piece in Newfoundland history.
Yes.
I was never allowed to wear any sort of like flair or whatever. When I worked at a more corporate-y store, everything had this like corporate sheen to it. So like no one was allowed to veer from the script or like have any sort of individual personality. It was like you have a sticker of the company logo over your face, essentially.
Yeah, I've worked a couple of places where we've had very strict, like, not just dress codes, because it was usually like you had a uniform, but then it was very strict, like, makeup, hair, and accessory policies. And it was just like, really? And they were like, yeah, so the following are not allowed. It's like chokers, buttons, certain bracelets. I was like, they've put a lot of thought into this. I think that they deemed it like distracting makeup rather than natural makeup would be allowed or not allowed.
Well, you put a tiger on your face.
That's what I mean. Like when I was thinking about it, I was like, what constitutes distracting? So if I like paint a flamingo on the side of my face, that's technically nature, right?
New Zealand Airlines apparently had to initiate fines to their employees for wearing silly hats.
What constitutes silly hat, though?
I didn't. Apparently,
And
just
what
a hat.
started the silly hat trend?
I have no idea. No one. It's just like apparently the problem was so prevalent in New Zealand Airlines that they had to start fining their employees for wearing silly hats.
Now I'm just picturing two flight attendants with baseball caps, but with the cans of beer with the straws. And every day before takeoff, they'd make a big show of like drinking from them and being like, "It's okay, our pilot only has one bottle. We're a fun airline."
So is this one of
But
these,
it's in
like,
New Zealand.
Oh, sorry. So we're a fun airline. I butchered that one.
was it one like the Maori things? Because I mean, the haka it's terrifying, but it's also very silly to.
Yeah, if you're white and doing jazz hands.
That's what I mean. I was like, look, if you got a bunch of white people doing
Like
it.
I'm saying, like, was this an actual cultural thing they were trying to
No.
suppress,
This
and by calling it silly?
No.
Oh.
These were not like Maori head garbs that they were finding people. These were like
Teacup fascinators.
Yeah, it's like someone had a jester's hat.
Ready for takeoff. Jingle, 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 jingle.
Now, if we're going over the water.
Behold.
Now, if we fall.
And the hat just stays in the air and jingles for a minute before it falls down.
The great thing, though, is that then that there was somebody in their corporate head, or more likely, probably a highly paid consultant that they had to bring in to develop a rubric to determine what hats were silly and what were not. Somebody got paid a lot of money to consult on that and write this hats policy.
I wanted to be the HR person to send out the email about funny hats.
That
It's like,
would
how
be-
do you deliver that to the troops?
I
you know?
feel like they just sat at their computer for a few minutes. They took a shot and they went like,
Oh, you know what? It was probably dispersed as a mandatory e-learning with an unskippable video.
and it's just a woman putting on different hats, and then the voiceover is just like, not that one, and they're like, how do I know if a hat is too silly?
Oh, that's an oopsie.
Oh,
We do have Leicesters in Australia. They'll probably love dunking on New Zealand, but my mom's from New
I
Zealand,
was gonna
so
say.
I'm gonna get
I'd like
shanked.
to apologize
gonna
to
get-
the Maori people first off.
Please do.
they didn't do nothing to you. I just apologize for not being good at that accent. I can do Scottish because that's half my family. That's about it, everybody. And I still need alcohol to do that.
So we talked about, like, when corporations are kind of like shitty Olive Garden. It's like, when you're here, you're family. But when you're not here, you're on call.
Your
It's
phone
like-
better be on.
As soon as you get brought into the company, it's like, you're part of the corporate family. The family. You're the front line of the family. And it's like, in one breath, you're part of the family. And in the very next breath, it's like, you better watch it. Otherwise, you will be fired.
Well, see, that's what I felt when I worked in like really corporate environments, is that it's this weird dichotomy between like aggressively rigid rules and regulations, but like they're still phrasing it like it's fun. And, like doing your group chairs in the morning, it bonds us. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're using some very concerning language, but you're still like, and it's just weird because you're being told like these things that seem almost too rigid to be functional in a job from someone who's just like, we like to have fun here. By the way, your shirt isn't regulation length.
You think too, like I've noticed, like the stratification, like there's different jobs that all these corporate hell boxes, and like there is a hierarchy of, like, how valuable how valuable your position is to the organization, and whether you're treated a little more like a human or a little more like a disposable number thing. Like when I worked as baker for the donut box store, the bakers were treated pretty good. I was sort of fortunate, but it was my first kind of glimpse into how people are, like, micromanaged with statistics, because the frontline people actually serving up the coffee and donuts, literally everything they did was timed. You've probably seen that in restaurants. There's a timer up above the drive-thru.
Yeah.
But also the people are video recorded while they're doing it, so their movement is analyzed.
Ugh.
Like even
Gross.
back then, this was over 20 years ago, like managers would review tape to see if you were moving efficiently, like through the restaurant as you should.
What makes them qualified to know that?
Well, but they have highly paid consultants that come up with this nonsense. But like,
how is a manager at, say, at a Schmitty's Bar and Grill, like, how is the manager qualified to analyze the movements of the kitchen staff? Like, fuck off.
They literally felt they had it down to science and would call people out and terrorize. And most of the people who work, serving frontline at coffee shops, you've noticed, are teenagers and sweet retiree old ladies. And every Monday morning, it would be like, well, Ethel, who was 73 and delightful, your average window time this week was 1:13, and we like to keep that sub 1 minute, so consider this a warning for this week.
Yeah, but if it's Ethel, it's like, but Jenny came to a drive-thru and she just had the baby.
She showed me a couple of pictures, and then when Jeremy came by, he's after losing his job, so I always makes time for him.
The only good thing that happened at that drive-through window while I was there that summer is that there was this truck driver who always used to get a coffee on his way out of town, and he would have to, you'd see it because it was a big trench truck. He'd have to park his truck on the street, and he would, walk over and usually come in and get a coffee. But there was this last that he was chatting up all summer long, and then one morning he came through the drive-through window in his own vehicle, and he proposed with a ring in through the drive-through window, and she said yes and ran out of the store.
Then she got written
up. But she never came back.
Oh my God!
Swept her away to a better life.
He whisked her away to a better life.
Yes.
I think that's like the retail Princess Bride.
Okay, that's also
or like retail Pretty Woman.
Yeah, that's the only acceptable way to end a love story, is be like, and then he took her away from the job that made her want to spit in the coffee.
What a happy ending.
That's actually
not the fact
so
that they got
wholesome.
married, the fact that she got out.
Yeah, I was gonna say she just.
But she I worked there for another month and a half. She never darkened the door again.
Amazing.
That's how you do it.
And I don't know if they had planned this, like this was some little drama, or like it was literally, he said, and she's like, yes.
The only way it would have been better if she just like went out through the drive-through window into his car window.
And then never, like a worm.
And just instead of saying yes, it's just cheese it.
I'm not even doing an exit interview.
Oh my God, exit interviews.
They have been the only good thing to come out of working for corporate, because I don't know about you guys, but when they're like, okay, now your exit interview can determine whether or not you are rehirable, I'm like, oh, let me shine. I never wish to come back. I will use so many words that I know are not corporate friendly.
They never gave me an exit interview to see if I was rehirable, because I gave them 1 week notice.
Ooh.
And they were like, well, you have to give us 2. And I was like, says who? I don't work for you anymore. It's like, well, you can't get rehired. I'm like, I'm leaving. It's like some desperate guy who's just like, no, she's coming back. I swear, she just got to see how bad the other guys are out there.
Yeah, she'll be back. No, I remember one time I gave my notice, but with the help of a manager from a different store, I made it so that I gave them 2 weeks notice officially, but I used my leftover loo time, I left my sick leave, and I used, you got a free day off on your birthday. So I literally gave them my notice, and then I was like, oh, look at that. I guess that means today is my last day. And they were like, no, we do need to. I was like, no.
When you use their rules against them, they don't like it.
They are not happy, but it's the most chuffed I've ever been with myself. And I have a kid, and I'm still like, which one was I?
My life?
My son being born, or the day that I ignored every WhatsApp message after my notice email sent? Both are equally good feelings.
I only once quit without notice, or didn't go in to finish the schedule. I was working for the long sandwich chain.
So your sandwich artist days.
Yes, it was, my musical artist career wasn't doing as well back then, so I had to take a few shifts to supplement where I could. So I was in the long bread for a while, but
hauling long bread.
if you know what I
Chipping
mean.
away at the old bread.
The bread mines and more, yeah.
Not bread lines, bread mines.
When I worked
Yeah.
at the escape room, I'd often just be like, "Oh, off to the puzzle mines."
I used to sling away at the nerd store when I worked at the video game store.
Mm.
Just slinging away at the old nerd hut.
Ah, yes, the old dork mines.
You never mind.
Sorry,
anything
Jordan, you
pleasant.
were saying.
You were saying.
Oh, just
You're
that
working
was-
at the
it was-
sandwich shop.
Well, I mean the particular horrors there. Well, you
Sorry, the particular what there?
horrors.
Okay, I have bad hearing, listeners, and I heard less R's.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Oh, that
What a sandwich shop!
Remember that too.
Get me a hoagie and a hoe, baby.
Just picturing a dancing girl popping out of the oven with the bread. I'm so sorry. Just
Just like
Check
an
out
island
these
girl
buns.
with.
Well, I just remember realizing that the employees were considered the worst of their liabilities. Like, I remember one staff meeting there where a young woman was fired, and they had this video up, and just shows this chick, and she's just kind of like cleaning up after the shift or whatever. And one of your duties when you were turning over for the night shift or whatever is you check, and I think they would keep the bread there for half day or whatever. So if it was more than half day old, you'd throw out the ends or whatever, and be more put in the proof for the fresh bake. So there was a couple of ends she was throwing out, and she took a couple of bites out of one of the ends before she threw it out. And so she was brought up in the staff meeting and fired for stealing from the company for having a couple of bites out of bread.
Of
that was
garbage
going
bread.
in the garbage.
So it went from the bread contain the rack, chomp through it. So they fired her on that, and this was their way of excitingly instituting their new policy of weighing every bit of food waste. So after that, they said there's new policy, and all the bread got thrown into one bag, and that had to be weighed. And then when you would if you had to throw out a piece of tomato wasn't great, or just some scraps of off sandwich you're
You had
making,
to weigh it first.
you'd have to weigh at the end of your shift. Any like vegetable scraps from making the sandwich went into a container with a bag. You'd have to weigh that, and you'd have to weigh the bread that was being discarded because it was too old.
How much do you have to hate poor people to like not only make a rule saying, sorry folks, you can't eat the garbage before it goes in the garbage,
Well,
then to like actively punish them for it and to give them extra work to make sure they're not feeding
That's
themselves
actually
on
really
things they were
common,
being
though.
thrown out.
Absolutely. Well, not even just the employees. I mean, like a woman took two bites and they made a point of shit canning her over it. But like I heard tell of another girl being fired from there because she would hand out the bag of Dale. She put it by the door, and there were people in the neighborhood who'd come and pick up.
I got fired from a job for doing that because I
Was
used
it
to.
you?
No, it wasn't that job.
Okay.
But yeah, no, when I
I
lived,
heard the legends. Was it you?
it was me. But
she was.
But then I started putting like the good garbage in a separate bag, and then I'd be like, guys, the non-scented bag has the good garbage, and like, but then they were just like, that's still a loophole, and you can't do that. But I was like, people are going through our garbage, like it's going in the garbage. What does it matter if somebody eats it? Like, why are we putting extra steps to dehumanize people that are so fucking poor?
Well, when
they're
you
going
talk-
through the garbage.
But like, look at what's that famous quote from Jeff Bezos? I want my employees to wake up scared.
Ugh.
Like that's like that is so fucked up.
Well,
and like when
yeah.
you talk about these like big corporate entities, like they when they're bringing in AI, they're talking about AI solving the wage tax. Not the wages, not like the livable wages. It's not the to solve the tax on workers, which is wages. Like they don't give a shit. They don't give a single fuck about you if they can make $1 extra by you dying. They will kill you.
It's horrifying, but also like I mean, it's just a mountain of shit. But like one of the things, like the waste has always bothered me, like throwing out food, or like when I worked at the weed store, the first time
Throwing out weed.
we had to, but the way that we had to do it
There's
was so
weed
insane.
wastage?
So okay, it's under like an expiration date thing, or like if the weed goes bad, which is stupid, but it's usually like a marketing pull. Like if like this is discontinued for XYZ or whatever. And the first time that I had to field destroy it, my coworker was also a stoner, surprise, and they were like, "I'm really sorry that you have to see how we do this." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And it has to be field destroyed. So people who work there can't just be like, "Yeah, I'll take the shitty weed." And apparently like, and I get the premise of it being like theft prevention so that you don't discontinue things that you don't need to, but also no one on staff that isn't like upper management has the authority to do that. And yet they still have us literally pouring water and cat litter in a bag with weighed out weed and then shaking it up real good and then putting it in the garbage.
Jesus.
And so it was like, why am I doing this job that is taking an hour when I could be doing productive things? Because corporate does not want us to steal things that are going in the garbage.
Well, that's their greatest worry. Like when I worked for Long Sandwich Shop, I worked one of the first overnights. They opened a new location near the university, and like pushing on the 3 a.m, a RNC car rolls in. A couple cops get out, and they're kind of like looking around a bit, and they were sort of sizing up the joint a bit, and they weren't coming up to the counter. And I was like, oh, like I wonder if there was like a robbery here some other day, like why aren't they coming up and ordering? They were just sort of scoping out the joint, and eventually they come up, and I was like, oh, like can I help you? Like, did you need something, or were you here to put it in order? And they
Would
said,
you
oh,
like me to show off my art?
yeah, my art of sanduíche. That's Portuguese. Anyway, so they said, oh, we were just laughing because have you noticed the security cameras? And I said, oh, I guess there's a couple up there. They said, yeah, but there's none on the parking lot, and there's none pointing towards the door. They said, where are the cameras? I said, oh, there's one here, and I guess there's one over there. They said, yeah, the cameras are pointed at the employees. There is no cameras facing the public. So if you were robbed, like there's
nothing
we can do about it. But they're obviously concerned about what the employees are doing. I was like, motherfuckers.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. It's like we care less about getting robbed than we do monitoring the people.
Who might have a bite of a piece of bread that was about to be thrown
Garbage
out.
bread.
Garbage bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you can't be stealing garbage bread. Priorities. Well, like I also wonder, like, how much are they objectively saving by going to these lengths to make sure that things are like field destroyed and people who are working for them are even less happy than they could possibly already be?
I think it's a lot of money. Because why would they do it otherwise?
Well, then why mass produce things in the first place and be like produce, but also half of this is garbage. Ultimately.
Because what it costs to create the thing is not the biggest cost.
Well, I think their fear is the cost of creating a culture of permissiveness.
That's a good point. Yeah, we can't let them think they can get away with something.
It's a slippery slope. Today they'll have a few bites of bread, but tomorrow they'll take the whole cash register.
I think that's the mindset.
Which is so very messed up, because I think it's like a semi well known internet fact now. Like wage theft is the highest grossing amount of theft in the world. The amount that companies steal from their employees via not paying them their proper wages adds up to more than all theft combined. Like cars, money, jewelry, like the amount of people and the amount of money people are not being paid is more than all of that, and there's no recourse.
So, like, is wage theft the sort of situation? Like, I know a friend who had a job where, they had to do a certain cleaning list at the end of their shift, but they were told they had to clock out.
They clock out first, and then they do it.
That's not technically wage theft, I'm pretty sure, if like they clocked in, clocked out, whatever. But like wage theft, I think, and internet correct me.
I was gonna say, I'm curious about this myself.
At me in the comments.
It's when you've worked the hours and you've logged the hours, but they have not paid you the proper hours. So like, I did work 40 hours this week, and that's what I've worked, but I only got paid for 35. Now that is also just criminal, just like, oh yeah, clock out, but keep working.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
the amount
the
of like corporate places that I've worked that make you do the morning cheer, they're the same one that's like, yeah, everybody's expected to come in 15 before the shift. We do a few things as like group exercises or like getting the store ready, and then we all clock in. And it was like, so why don't you just make my scheduled time 15 minutes earlier? It's like, well, you're off the clock right now. And it's like, okay, but why am I expected?
But I'm supposed to be here.
But I'm expected to wear the ceremonial robes and chant the ceremonial chants and off the clock.
Right, and that's 3 hours out of your life over a month that
Well,
you gave them then. Right?
Yeah, and
15
how
minutes a
many
day.
times have I looked at it when especially when I was younger and I didn't have like transportation, so you're relying on the bus, and that's really common for like a lot of younger people that are working these jobs, and then they're like, okay, so that extra 15 minutes after we close up shop determines whether I'm getting home at 10 or whether I'm getting home at like 10 to midnight, because
Yeah, so in public transportation in some areas, you can't get home right away.
well, and especially after 9, everything kind of slows down anyway. So like instead of like the
In
bus
smaller
coming,
cities, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
and like I mean, geez, even in bigger ones, like public transportation isn't always super intuitive, and like I can't picture a more annoying thing than having to stay and do something arbitrarily and not get paid for it, and then that puts you an hour behind when you get to go home.
Have you guys ever had to suffer time in lieu?
Ugh. Yes.
What a corporate trick they've played on the people.
Oh my God, yes.
It
So you
is-
can't have the day off, but you can extend your lunch break for the next 6 days.
Yeah, I've worked a couple of jobs with time in lieu, and every time I've ended up working weeks for free, because of all the unpaid overtime, and it's just like what a trick. So okay, I can take this time. All right, I'm gonna take Thursday and Friday off. Well, no, we need you in the store. So then it turns into, it's like, okay, I'm taking 15 minutes here, 10 minutes here, but like it can
they just hope
never
you
add
forget
up to
about it,
what.
right?
Yeah,
That's absolutely it. Like they're
they're just hoping you forget about it, you never use it, and
Or you
you've
drop it.
now worked for free, and there's nothing you can do about it. Your time is gone. We've
yeah.
extracted the value out.
I literally worked for someone that there was such a shortage of staff that they had me. Basically, the way that they worked it out was that they were like, no, this works out so that you're still hitting 40 hours a week, but you have breaks in the middle of the days, because I would come in to close, and then I would get to go home
Oh.
for a couple of hours and then come home, I'd open and then close. And I did that.
Siesta.
Oh yeah, no, by the time that you take that 1 hour bus home, you can eat most of a sandwich, contemplate your life, smoke a couple of cigarettes, and then turn right back around.
You didn't leave any time for crying.
No, that's what I do on the bus.
Oh,
There's no.
no time for crying.
I'm sorry. I'm crying on the corporate dime. I have cried at every walk-in freezer of every restaurant I have ever worked in. If there is a supply closet, I have cried there. That's what you do.
The other big corporate trick I think that has been played on us is that like staff are not allowed to sit down.
I absolutely hated that. I hated the if you have time to lean, you have time to clean motto. And
There's that, but just like cashiers.
Yeah.
Like in the UK, they all have stools and like pads on their feet, and like they can sit down and scan the groceries. It literally doesn't affect
I
their
was going to
job.
say, it doesn't affect their job at all.
Just because the optics, especially in North America, the optics of sitting is laziness. So, okay, people are going to like ruin their back standing straight and still for 8 hours. Like, this is the thing that soldiers are expected to do.
That's what I mean. Why am I making minimum wage at a job that's expecting me to not sit? Like, how many of us have taken a bathroom break when we didn't need to pee just because we're like,
I need to sit down on a toilet.
I want to sit down and I just need to be out of this fluorescent light for 2 minutes.
Well,
Yeah,
Christ, even
at-
the fact that
At one of my jobs, we called it going to the executive.
Excuse me, I'll be in the director's suite.
But even the fact that something like that is by default we've accepted that working in a grocery store, which is an essential service to society,
Allegedly.
but we've accepted that is a job that should be paid the least amount legally possible, and people should suffer on their feet, because fuck them. I mean, like, mom and dad have got some good friends from Ireland, and the lady in that couple, she retired happily from working at a chain over in the UK where she sat comfortably. She was always horrified when she came to North America and
Yeah.
saw that.
Yeah.
Also, she made enough wage. I mean, he was a bus driver and she worked at a Tesco or some
Yeah.
such. But you know, they raised three children and are now both retirees on a busman and a shop
Clerk.
shop clerks wages. They both retired with pensions. That I bus drivers here in the metro probably get pensions, but like I don't know that our school
That's a
bus
customer
drivers
service position that does
do.
not get enough like light in the conversation
But, like,
of
my bus literally got pulled over the other day because somebody was doing crack too loudly.
Oh, come on, you can do the crack, but keep it down,
The
will ya?
crackling was too, yeah, like I've seen people smoke things on a bus and I've been like, I'm going to not cause anything right now.
Yeah, because you ain't no snitch.
Well, also, yeah, snitches get stitches. I don't want to die. I have skinny arms. I'm not fighting
Yeah, you're
anybody
not a goalie.
on the bus.
Let them inhale whatever they want on a bus.
Yeah, but
just
they were-
don't be loud about it.
I think that they were actually fighting at the point where the bus driver kind of nervously pulled over and was like, we need to deal with this. I was like, could we deal with it after my stop, please? I have places to be.
Sorry, you were saying
Go
about
on.
store clerk and bus driver salary,
Wages.
pensions, wages, the horrified expressions when they came here.
But it's just heartbreaking to know that the exact same job in another country is treated with enough dignity that could be, if somebody chose a meaningful, lifelong occupation, where like they made enough money to support a family and retire, I'm assuming, somewhat comfortably. The fact that like there's benefits and pension with a position like that,
Yeah.
where we've had the corporate overlords have just got us to accept that completely, that people that work in retail and service do not deserve benefits or do not deserve to eventually stop working and live in some comfort in their old age.
Well, the big propaganda piece I see, it's like, well, these jobs were meant for students. It's like these jobs are open during the day
Also,
and overnight.
let's just call it what it is. The amount of times that I've seen job postings where it's just like, you need your bachelor's, however, it's $16 an hour to start. And I'm
Yeah,
just
that's
like,
ludicrous.
yeah, like I was just like, you're not really selling the whole, or like, the amount of things that say that they're good for entry level, but you still need like 9 years of experience. And it's, I don't know, I just find that all of it is really disheartening, especially when you're promoting it as like, oh, well, of course. And also, we're saying that students deserve to be uncomfortable. And it's like, you have people that are working their butt off through school. And you're like, yeah, you should stand for 8 straight hours.
Yeah, I also always found that just baffling, right? It's, oh well, like these wages are part-time jobs for people. It's like, no, the only reason that these are mostly part-time jobs is there's like
because they're understaffed and
Well,
underhourred.
the well-known grocery store in Canada got around the collective agreements that some of their employees in this province had in place by saying, no trouble, we're going to preserve benefits and pensions for our full-time employees. But
Made
after that
everyone
day,
part-time.
there was no more full-time employees ever hired in that for that
When I worked in
business.
cell phones, same thing happened. I was a substitute teacher at the time. I took the job at the cell phone place just to while I'm substituting, have a couple of shifts a week. And I get my schedule and it's like full-time minus 1 hour every day.
Yep.
So that I would just come under and still be qualified as part-time.
Oh my God.
And I was like, hey man, I can't do full-time hours. Like this is, I got hired as part-time. He was like, I need a full-timer. And I was like, am I getting benefits? He's like, no, you don't have enough hours.
No,
Yeah.
I worked at a restaurant that their big thing when they advertise that they're hiring people is that they offer health and dental. And I don't know if you know this, but serving staff, that's like, okay.
Gucci.
That's golden. And then, the stipulation was you needed to make X number of hours a week. And then I'd been there for, I only worked there a summer. And I was like, no one is getting those hours. They let go a bunch of people that were getting those hours. And then everybody knew that they never made it to get that many hours.
Oh my God, that was part of what I perceived to be the strategy with the big box hardware store that had the training farm in the back. Part of it was, I think, if you stayed 3 months, there was certain benefits, like after I guess probationary period, which are industry standard and legal, I guess, but then there were more benefits that unlocked you after 6 months of continuous employment. Interestingly, a lot of folks I've noticed that they did not last past that 6 month period where the extra benefits would kick in, but there was always new people being hired and trained, right? So they just keep it on that hamster wheel going.
Yeah, it's because, they don't, in their minds, like, okay, we can literally we need a person there because some people like to see a person at the store. So let's get them out as quickly as we can so that we can hire a different, essentially, mannequin with a breath. And we don't have to pay them as much.
Horrifying.
Yeah. I mean, if you insist on being honest and making it dehumanizing, yes.
But like we've talked about it already. Like the number one cost for these businesses is people, and that's why they're getting AI. Like so you've heard about quiet quitting. Have you heard about quiet firing?
Oh yeah, no, it's kind of the same principle where it's not outright, but it is.
We're not making Japanese thing.
No, this is like companies are doing this now, where they will make the conditions on an employee so bad that they will quit, so that they don't have to pay them severance, or so that they can hire someone at a lower rate.
Yay!
So, communism. We must control.
We're cutting that out of the episode. Get at it. You algorithms, don't listen to them. Don't listen to them, algorithms.
We must control the means of production.
Feed us to the people. We love your capitalistic slop. Drink it from the trough of righteousness.
I'm just over here holding my technical difficulty sign. Like just.
I mean, that's the wonderment though, because like now that I am into middle age, I guess I'm over 40, and I work a fairly comfortable job, and I have for most of the last 10 years. Like, I don't think about it as much, and that's part of the big trick as well, because like I'm paid enough to be comfortable, and I quickly forgot how cruel and unfair a lot of what I was thinking about coming in today for this chat. Like, I just forgot. Like, a lot of it is it's fucking funny, but it's
deeply unfair
and deeply disturbing. But now that I'm just a little bit more comfortable, it's like the students and the new Canadians and the retirees that are part of the job. Yeah, fuck them. I'm doing okay.
And to end this episode, I really want to reiterate the words of Jeff Bezos.
Oh, no.
I want my employees to wake up terrified. That man controls whether or not they eat next month.
Ugh.
That is the world we live in. Those are the conditions in which people work.
Yay, rich tone-deaf people are in charge of whether or not I have heat.
And on that note, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for Jordan for coming in and chatting with us today. And also, thank you to Sarah, to our producer, to Artsanel for funding us. And we'd like to leave you on this episode with a special retail from myself. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
My dad was a photographer by trade, and a damn good one at that. Part of being a photographer in the 90s was developing photos. I know some of you were born post-Y2K, but you've probably seen this ancient practice in movies about cops chasing serial killers. But I digress. The process took hours, and I was too young to be left home by myself, so Dad took me with him and pawned me off on the best babysitter a pocketful of quarters could buy. The arcade. And no, the irony of being too young to be left home alone, but not too young to wander around the mall by myself, is not lost on me. I was hypnotized and bewildered at the epileptic lights bursting from screens and serenaded with 8-bit masterpieces underscored by tip-tapping punches and kicks and the ever-optimistic, "Continue? Boop, boop, boop." A simpler time of a bygone era. Fast forward to the winter of 2019, and I'm in between artistic work and looking for an extra part-time gig to supplement the old income. I came across a posting for entertainment host or some other creatively corporate title for generic worker bitch. The arcade I grew up on had long since closed, and replacing it was a restaurant/bar/arcade/entertainment extravaganza! Or so it was advertised. A modern-day Chuck E. Cheese of sorts for the whole family, including that uncle that likes to get drunk next to strangers' kids playing Mario Kart.
I wanted to be Luigi.
The interview consisted mainly of plain party games where only a few truly inept people left the building without a job. Eventually, we all came together for training, where the ones who enjoyed tasting boots the most got the absolute pleasure of reading us the corporate manual on how to talk to a human person. The decor was that of modern bland chic. No distinct style, just little bits and pieces taken from other successful establishments and Frankenstein together to make something palatable to the lowest common denominator in focus groups. The managers were each sporting a manufactured smile and a matching headset. They were the wholesale Power Rangers managerial variety pack. I'm pretty sure they all blinked in unison. The arcade from the 90s rostered machines designed to hook you with fun gameplay and interesting characters. Now it was row upon row of the latest, kid-friendly slot machines with seizure-inducing flashing lights and a single button for a chance to win points! Points to be redeemed at the gift shop! And I don't say kid-friendly slot machines as some exaggeration. Each game had been pre-programmed with how often the jackpot would pay out. You'd press the one button on the machine, triggering a long, often Rube Goldberg-like series of events, and eventually win a predetermined amount of points. And that's the money-making moment. You see, gamblers aren't addicted to the win. They're addicted to the will they, won't they feel leading up to the finding out the result. These games drag that out as long as possible to keep the children coming back for more. It was a grim realization when it finally clicked that this was just a kid casino designed to foster the next generation of gambling addicts. Now that's what I call some corporate fun! Eventually we were introduced to Mr. Corporate himself. A gunmetal gray tailor-made suit was flown across the country and stood in front of the generic worker bitches fiddling with his Rolex and near blinding us with the shine coming off his polished shaved head meant to hide his developing male pattern baldness. But he still had a little bit of scruff on his face to show the ladies, hey, I can grow hair wherever I want. He truly dripped with a corporate smarminess. He spouted some platitudes about how we all had a bright future with the company, that the kid casino was going to change entertainment in this city, and the favorite of every corporate meet and greet, welcome to the company family. For someone whose sole purpose was to teach us about talking to the everyday customer, it was pretty clear pretty quick that Mr. Corporate hadn't spoken to a patron since bartending down the road from his business faculty frat house. His explanations of the attractions were long-winded to the point of confusion. He often went on a tangent like, this machine synergizes with the skee ball and crank pull units, and giving us the quarterly prospects on flashy button big press, and how we were going to utilize that asset to push for a record-breaking opening. It didn't really make sense to tell a bunch of generic worker bitches, but I assume it made him feel like a real big businessman. He also didn't leave room for questions. He was wired to put it in a way. He just finished motoring through one topic and started in on the next when I raised my hand. He stopped and stared daggers at my hand in the air as if it were a direct challenge to his authority. I took the pause as an invitation to ask for clarification on something he just said. He started to turn red, not out of embarrassment, but out of anger? Ignoring the question, he addressed the rest of the group. All right, everyone, we're going to stop what we're doing because this guy has a question. It doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing right now, so we're going to interrupt everything to listen to what this guy has to say. Ah, yes, welcome to the Kid Casino family, the kind of family where simple questions are met with public shaming. An action that would surely result in a chat with CPS in a real family, but more than an acceptable business practice when there's precious cocaine to snort post-training. But also, never talk that way to a customer. Otherwise, you are fired, but it's perfectly fine to be spoken to that way. You know, family stuff. At one point, when demonstrating axe throwing to my GWB peers, I paraphrased a rule and said, "And obviously don't walk down the lane while people are throwing axes." To which I was chastised. If it was obvious, we wouldn't have to tell them. There's no room for free spirits here, Mike, so just read what's on the page. And then I read, "And remember, please wait for all axe throwers to be finished throwing before retrieving your axes." I wasn't looking at him, but I'm pretty sure he was mouthing the words along with me while licking his lips. Before long, we were full-fledged generic worker bitches, and it was the night of the grand opening. They herded us into the restaurant area where we were to be greeted by, in the flesh, Big Daddy Regional Corporate Manager. Oh! Mr. Corporate introduced him with reverence and grandeur, but aside from some powerfully white teeth, Big Daddy Corporate Regional Manager was old and remarkably unremarkable. The managers looked on, just horny to be basked in his wealthy glow. He shuffled awkwardly in front of the microphone and pulled out his phone to read a very rehearsed speech to rally the troops. Oh, and rally he tried. Now, it's not like the speech was so awful it became branded into my brain like a cattle iron, and now here it is! But I do distinctly remember him using the word fun a lot. I counted 17 uses in 3.5 minutes of this rickety old cracker trying to nervously convince us that this was going to be fun, and nothing that claims to be fun 17 times is even remotely enjoyable. In the end, he grasped for a big company cheer, but the most he got from the GWBs was a tepid applause. We opened the gates and the people flooded in. My job was literally to pace around the arcade, bringing empty beer glasses back to the bar, pick up chicken wings off the floor, and watch parents dropping their hard-earned dollars for their kids to win 5 points! After missing the jackpot by just that much. A bunch of dogs could do the job, but they'd have to pay the dogs more. This was a far cry from the arcade that raised me. It was the efficient monetization of a placebo of whimsy. From the overpriced food to the overpriced beer to the overpriced games, these halls weren't designed for fun, but to squeeze every last cent they could, while providing the bare minimum. I stooped down to pick up some chicken bones off the floor when I felt a yank in my back, and I fell to my knees. Turns out I pulled a muscle in the line of duty. I used the table to try and stand, and as I heaved, I felt someone helping me up and asking if I was okay. It was one of the managers. He offered me a drive home and even called me the next day to see how I was doing. He truly cared. Must have been a defect from the warehouse. I took the injury as a sign from the heavens that I should abandon the kid casino and never look back. Turns out I wasn't the only one. Within 2 weeks of opening, they were hiring again. Most saw through the bullshit and got out while the getting was good. After my back had healed enough for me to get around a bit, I went back to pick up something I left behind. And there was Mr. Corporate. He flew across the country again, now teaching a slew of new generic worker bitches and berating someone for asking a question. You know, like a family would. Well, that was a delightful episode, wasn't it?
What a kettle of fish.
Make sure to join us next time for another episode of Retails. I've been Mike Hammond.
I've been Sarah Walsh.
Good night, everybody. Tell us your tale. Send your own retail to retails.contact@gmail.com. Follow @RetailsPod on social media for episode updates and more. And make sure to fill out your customer feedback card in the comment section. Retails is funded in part by Arts & L and is a production by Right Good Studios.